Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm the Sara Chaudhary, and today my presentation topic is the philosophy of realism. Firstly, we see the outline. First, we discuss the introduction and concept, forms of realism, curriculum, teacher, and the teaching method. Firstly, we see the introduction. Realism philosophy is the object or the thing that are the really exist, certain attributes independently of what people think about it. The term realism comes from the Latin realis, who is to be really or the real. It rejects the imaginative idealization in favor of the close observation. Next, we see the who is the father of realism. Aristotle is the father of realism. Aristotle believed in direct observation of the nature. In science, he taught theory that must follow the fact. Next, we see that for the inquiry, logic are the necessary tool, and syllogism is the sequence that all logical thought follows. Realism is against the idealism, and education should be practical and useful. Next, we see the forms of the realism. There are four forms of the realism: scholastic realism, humanistic realism, social realism, and sense realism. Firstly, we see the scholastic realism, in which the educational philosophy of scholastic realism is essentially dualistic. Dualistic means that it recognizes both natural and the supernatural. Primary function of mind in the world is that of cognition. It believes that change is not completely ruled out from scholastic system, and the goodness is commanded to children as divine command. Next, we see the humanistic realism. Humanistic realism, it is also called as the verbal realism. It believes that a complete knowledge of man, nature, and society is needed to fit individual for the realities of the life. It is also believed that education is gained through the books and have actual use in one's life. The purpose of the realism is to master man on environing life, natural and social, through knowledge of the broader life of ancients. Social realism. Social realism include it criticize the bookish knowledge because it believes that practical knowledge can be obtained through the travel than books. For example, the observation and the experimentation. Content of book is insufficient as preparation for the social life and to make judgment of the problem of society. The social realism, it explains that education should equip learner for happy and the successful life as man of the world. Next, we see the sense of the realism. It is also called a scientific realism, where its components are also innovators. Scientific realism, that it include the reality is based on what our senses can perceive. Senses realists believe that knowledge can gain through our senses. Instruction should follow inductive method, and the ultimate purpose of the education is still happiness with God. Next, we see the teacher and the teaching method. In realism, the teacher is dominant, and the teacher teaches the material things. Next, the teacher method. Teaching method includes the inductive teaching method, heuristic teaching method, experimental teaching method, and the field trips. First, the inductive teaching method. The example of inductive teaching method is: as a learner, you might listen to a lecture or watch a video. Heuristic teaching method, in which it is the strategies that derived from the previous experiences with similar problems. Experimental method, in which the experiments include, and the field trips project based. Field trips include the projects that are based on the field work. Thank you.